First of all, thank you for staying as we start our congregational conversations. Unfortunately, as many of us have heard, Jack is not able to be with us today, and perhaps for a while. He has a medical condition that really requires some serious medical attention. But he did certainly want us. He was regretting that he couldn't be here today with us. So I would ask that we please keep him in our thoughts and keep him close to our heart. He wanted us to have this gathering today, even though he couldn't be here. So congregational conversations. We've had a few over the years. Some of us have been here long enough to know that we've had some starts at having these on a regular basis, but we never really had the consistency. And when COVID hit, of course, we stopped meeting in person. And as we learned how to successfully manage COVID, and we've had our starts and stops with masking and unmasking, depending on the numbers, and most importantly, because most of us have had our vaccinations and boosters, we're able to begin normalizing our functioning, fingers crossed. And once we did that, we started opening up and having more normal activities. Our Reverend Cleaver decided to retire. So we did start having some congregational conversations, and we were really waiting to see what would happen with the interim minister search. And we had a couple of gatherings to talk about the entire search process. If you remember, Pam was up here talking about the 7 phases of the search. And I'm happy to say that as of August 1st, we have completed phase 1 of the search process, and that is because Reverend Amy Shaw is with us here as our interim minister. And she's been here for almost a month now, right, Amy? And she's got 23 months to go, and it sounds like we're going to have a really good time with Amy. So I just want to mention, of course, that she is really going to assist us. I feel very confident about this, and the more I hear her sermons, she's going to assist us in moving beyond how we functioned with our last settled minister and through several months of contract ministers that we had. But most importantly, she is going to get us ready for our new settled minister by helping us through the emotional process of transition and change, and helping us to set our sights forward. So we're going to try to have these meetings once a month, right after the service. Once we start coffee again, which we probably will be able to do. Ruth?
I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, well, I think everybody's ready. Remember, masks are optional, and I always have hope that this will be the last time we have to do away with the masks, but I'm not all that confident. But we do have to learn to live with that, and I think we're in much better shape safety-wise now than we have been in the past. Okay, so these conversations, they're not formal meetings. There are no binding votes that are taken. They're just an opportunity for us to have the board present and have you present and ask questions, we can talk about what's going on, and it should be something that's going to be very beneficial overall to the congregation. So today, I thought what we would do is when this is a new board as of April 1st, relatively new. Some of us have been on the board previously. But one of the things that we did was we looked at the covenant that the board has, and we looked at board goals. And I'm going to ask Mo Morrison to come up and talk a little bit about our covenant, share that with you, because I think it's important for you to know that.
So the board did establish a covenant earlier this year. We put this together. And it reads, "We pledge to respect our fellow trustees by respecting all opinions, listening actively and openly, and holding open and respectful discussions during meetings. We also pledge to respect our congregation by listening to the concerns of the congregation, by speaking with one voice on voted decisions, and by being truthful and transparent in our communications with all of you, the congregation." We then set goals or objectives for this year. So we set these earlier this year. And our objectives for 2022 are as follows. There are 3. Number 1, we will facilitate a smooth transition from our settled minister, that was Kleber, to part-time contract ministers. We will hire an interim minister to lead us through the transition period, and that, of course, is Reverend Amy. Number 2, we will work to affirm and promote our 7 principles, both here within UCOV and beyond in the world. And number 3, we will work with our new interim minister, Reverend Amy, to create a vision for UCOV's future.
And we're going to hear from Bill Reynolds, who is the team leader of the strategic planning team. And he's going to update us on what's happening.
Last April, when I first became a member of the board, the first thing Jack did was ask me to put together a team to take a look at the long-term strategy and vision for UCOV. I guess he figured, since I was a relatively new member of the congregation and certainly a new member of the board, that maybe it was an opportunity to have a fresh set of eyes. And I put together a team that I thought was just absolutely very well qualified, extremely hardworking, and over the past few months, we've made a number of accomplishments. The team consists of Rich Cantarelli and Barb Gundy, Bev Morrison, and Jackie Whitus. And each of them have made very unique contributions, and I'm merely a guide, and these people have done all the heavy lifting. And I'm very proud of what we've done so far, and I'll go over some of the accomplishments that we made. With the input of many folks, including the people on our team, as well as some of our advisors. We have as advisors Mark Murray, who's a member of the congregation, although a remote member. Mo has been an advisor for us, and Dale Pavlemeyer has been an advisor for us. And each of them have offered some very valuable advice to us along the way. So with that advice, we've developed a research plan back in April, which we're executing on. We have 2 pieces of it. One is qualitative, with focus groups, and the other is quantitative, so that once we develop more information out of the focus groups, we'll have an opportunity later on in the process to validate some of those things and quantify them. And to date, we've already conducted 3 focus groups consisting of 6 to 9 congregants, and the focus obviously has been on long-term opportunities, focus on long-term threats, long-term desires, but we've done 3 of them so far, 6 to 9. The intent is to keep doing them until we've talked to everybody in this congregation that wants to have a voice. And as Reverend Amy said earlier today, your truth is important, and there's no better way right now, I think, to express your truth than to be a member of one of these focus groups. and I hope that you'll participate as we go along. We've begun a process of building a survey and researching survey engines to obtain more specific and quantitative information. We've learned a lot more about focus groups and research and surveys than I thought any of us ever would, but we've made a lot of progress. I was thinking about some of the questions that I most often hear from people about what this committee is all about. One is, what is the purpose of the focus groups? And the focus groups are intended to give us an understanding of the concerns, the hopes, the dreams, and aspirations of the congregation for the long term. Things like how will the ministry of the church need to change to attract and engage the next generation of congregants? In what way do we want to profile ourselves with the Venice community? How do we modernize and maximize our communication capabilities? How do we build a sense of stewardship that positions us well for financial sustainability in future years? What should our campus look like in the future? We have a fantastic piece of property here, and I know there's a number of diverse opinions as to how we use it, but give consideration as to what that might look like. And how will our membership demographics change over the next 5 years, and how do we respond to it and build a membership that is sustaining in the future? And finally, the other big question I get is, why now? Well, one of the things is that this congregation has changed a lot over the last several years because of COVID. How we worship with the remote capabilities that we have. How does that impact how we go forward in the future? How do we build on that? And how do we still get people in the pews on Sunday that allow us to have that sense of community? It has also changed the social nature of our church. In the past, before COVID, this was a very active church with things going on all throughout the week. Because of COVID, a lot of that has stopped. How do we build a social program here that is sustaining to the membership on a spiritual level and on a social level? So there's a number of things like that. We have another reason why we're doing this now is because we're engaged in a search for a new settled minister. It's important for us, I think, to really go through a deep discernment as to what's important to us about the kind of congregation we want to be, the kind of church we want to build, because that's really going to inform the type of minister that we want to search for. So it's a very timely, very important thing for us to be doing. Also, the changing demographics. We have an aging population. Who do we attract as new members for the next generation of UCOVers? What age group would logically fit in here? What kind of programs do we need to build? What kind of worship service do we have to both nourish and retain the people that we have here now, but also to attract people that might be looking for something a little bit different? I talked about the virtual church. We're celebrating our services now much differently than we ever did before. How do we enhance that? How do we expand that? And how do we grow that going forward? So again, as I said, or as Reverend Amy said, the truth is important. I hope that you will consider being part of one of the focus groups and letting your opinions be known. And these are actually kind of fun sessions, I think. Bev and Jackie just did one this past week, and it's very interactive. It moves fast. It doesn't take hours and hours. There's a number of different topics. They move through pretty quickly, but I do hope that you'll take the opportunity to be a part of it. And just get a hold of me or one of our team members. You see us out in the Lanai, or just go into Breeze and hit us with an email or something. We'll make sure that you get on the list. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill. And Ken is our treasurer, and he's going to give us an update on a couple of items.
My part's the easiest because I don't have too much to say. We are doing good with our with the funds. We haven't had to go into the reserves or anything. That's good. Several things that the board decided earlier on was that there was a restricted asset account that had been set aside for Family Promise, and the board decided, since that had not been used in 2 years, the benefit to the community and those in need would be better served if we distributed those funds. And we're doing that on a monthly basis of $400 that is sent to the Lewis and Gloria Flanzer Philanthropic Foundation to match ours to go to Family Promise. So $400 becomes $800 a month. One of the other things we've done that was a focus item of the entire board, issues came up about easement to the property. And that it was a lot of searching, reviewing of original documents. The easement appears to be valid and legal, but what came out of it was, in the origins of UCOV, agreements were made with the Montessori school and with the congregation that resulted in a land swap. And then it worked out, it was good for both parties. There was a nice legal language written up and sketches, but we did not have a certified land survey. And that's what we're in the process of obtaining now, just to codify all those documents. Other than that, we have received some nice gifts, and for that we're grateful. We're grateful for any gift. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
So the two people that are missing besides Jack, Steve Leapley is still away in Connecticut, but they'll be back sometime this week. And Pat Wellington, they will be back, I think, in the beginning of October sometime. Now it's your turn. We just wanted to kind of frame this in a way that let you hear from the board and what we've been kind of working on. And now we need to hear from you, what type of questions you have, what are your concerns? Who wants to start? Because this is a conversation. Dick.
Can you hear okay? Well, thank you, board, for wonderful, pleasant presentations. I really got a lot out of listening to you, and I'm very encouraged by what you're doing, and I'll support it. But my question, I thought it was mentioned earlier from the pulpit there that we're going to discuss the civil minister situation. Is that true? Can we talk about that, or?
Yes, what would you like to know about?
First of all, just like to be kind of brought up to date as to whether an actual committee has been named to be the civil minister search.
No. Okay, and I think one of the programs that we did back in April, maybe early May, we talked about the phases of the search and what that entails, the process. And it is and these are UU guidelines that we're following. And they were implemented, I believe they were redone in early 2021. And we made a commitment that we would follow the UU guidelines. So basically the essence of it is the congregation as a group, as a whole, decides who sits on the search committee, not the board. It's the congregation. And the process is a little bit complicated in that a series of questions have been developed to ask each member of the congregation. And the board will be assigned, and probably some of the nominating committee, just to expedite the process, to contact every single member of the congregation and have a conversation with them and pose these questions to them. Now, I would personally, and when Pam was president, we talked about doing this, those questions should be out to the board as soon as we can. So you can be thinking about, I actually have a copy of them in my pocketbook. So the congregation can be thinking about what type of questions you're going to be asked by the board member and what type of minister you want. What are the characteristics of the minister that you want? What are the important things to you? And the last question will be to you, who would you nominate to be on the search committee? What member of the congregation do you feel is, I'm sorry? And you can't nominate yourself. Nominations, and that was we just had a little change in the bylaws that got missed. Is Jean here? Jean, you'll be happy to hear this. There was, nominations are not accepted from the floor at the meeting, at the annual meeting for search committee members. It is strictly each member of the congregation recommends the person that they want, okay? And the process includes having somebody on the board serve as a data manager. So somebody on the board is going to collect all this information, put it on a spreadsheet, and then count the numbers. So let's say Barbara Smith gets nominated, and several people nominate her. 20 people nominate her. She gets 20 nominations. And Ruth Boysworth gets 10 nominations, and somebody else gets 30 nominations. Okay, so and then the board has to sift through all of those numbers, and whoever the congregation has voted on for 5 or 6 people, 7 people, those will be the people who will be on the search committee if they accept the position. And the part of the education process, so we finished phase 1, and phase 2, which I kind of jumped the gun on because I had the dates I was getting ahead of the process, I guess. It really is a lengthy process. It's going to take time because we really have to be well informed about what each of our individual responsibilities are.
Okay, that sounds good. It's sort of similar to what we've done in the past, actually, kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of. So what's the time frame of this going to be, this process?
Yeah. If I can get it, what did I do with my pocketbook? Because I can tell you what it is in a minute. And Jean, did you have a question?
I did.
Gene,
Dave, why don't you repeat this?
they're recording this, so the people at home want to hear the questions.
As congregant members respond to the calls that we receive, can we nominate for the search committee for a settled minister an individual who is on the board of directors, would be people sitting up there right now who are already serving in other capacities, understanding the dedication and time and effort over the period of 2 years that we're seeking a candidate to bring forward. So that's my question. Some people are already serving capably and ably, so they come to mind, but does it have to be a non-serving member of the congregation?
Amy?
Yeah, I can answer that one. So the recommendation, normally I work on the other side of this. I'm normally one of the transition specialists coming in to help a congregation figure out how to get a new minister. So what we typically tell churches is this. Thank you. We typically tell churches, yes, you can nominate somebody who is currently on the board. However, if they choose to accept that nomination, they step down from the board and somebody else will need to take that role.
Yeah.
Now, is that set in stone anywhere? No, that is not. It's the decision of the current congregation, how they feel about that. That is a strong suggestion, though, because it is almost a full-time job. And it is very, very hard if you are a board member, as one of my beloved friends who tried to do it for about a week said, the first time the whole board asked me questions about search, I cracked. I couldn't say to them, I can't tell you anything. I can't tell you a word. She said, I left the board. I realized immediately that there was such a conflict of interest. So, yes, you can nominate seated. No, they can't serve seated in general.
Yeah. And we have so many talented people in our congregation that I think it's going to be a difficult process. But I through the educational process, we will be talking about, what types of characteristics or attributes you should be looking for in someone who sits on the search committee, because it is a great deal of work. It is something to take very seriously. I was on the first search committee that looked for our first settled minister. Bev Morrison was on that committee. Dick Smith was the chair. We had a great time doing it, but we had a lot of work to do. So, it's something that people really need to think about, but it's exciting. It's an exciting thing to do because you really are, able to share what you're looking for in a minister collectively with a group of people, and you can talk about it. And the discernment process is a very interesting process to go through. So, what other questions?
What that schedule is.
The schedule, yeah. So, let's see. I think by June of 2023, we have a search committee in place. So we're going to be going into phase 2, which will be education and preparation for the search. And there's a lot of detail relative to that. We have to look at our congregational bylaws, which we recently did, and a board overview of the ministerial search process. We will have someone come who will be called, I think they're called a transitions program minister, will be coming here, either in person or virtually, to meet with us and talk to us about the process. There has to be a compensation consultation. Of course, that's a big, obviously, this is a job that someone is going to be applying for, and they want to be fairly compensated. The search committee retreat leader, search committee budget, so on and so forth, for phase 2, education and preparation. So the search committee will take several months to go through the process of discernment. And by August 1st of 2024, do I have that right? We will hopefully have a settled minister. So it is a 2-year process. And there were a lot of reactions because when we did it, it was a year, just about. But there are good, solid reasons, and I would encourage any of you to go to the UUA website and look up Settlement Handbook, and you can read the whole process. It's all there. It's all laid out for you, all the time frames. There's a checklist that kind of guides you along with the process. Okay, question? Any more questions? Not a one? Okay, I feel like okay. Well, thank you for coming. And I hope you have more questions for us next time. We just wanted to, take up a little time to give you an update on what the board is doing. And think about the process. Thank you.